People are freaking out that the GOP might abolish the Department of Education and replace it with Greenland. I'm not holding my breath. Presidents don't have the authority to abolish federal agencies that look at them funny. And Congress is about as effective at passing laws as Great Danes are at passing laws. Actually eliminating the Department of Education would require Congress to sober up long enough to pass a bill. Not to mention a great deal of political capital Trump could otherwise spend on creating cool new branches of the military. A more likely scenario is that Trump's Secretary of Ed hires a bunch of professional wrestlers and the department mostly just irritates teachers' unions and trolls Ivy League universities for the next 4 years. But let's say they actually do abolish the Department of Education. What would that mean? The Department of Education isn't that old. It was created during the Carter administration in 1980. Boba Fett, Red Lobster, and Nickelodeon are all older than the U.S. Department of Education. Ellie Kemper is older than the Department of Education, and she's never responded to my DMs. Did the United States have education prior to Ellie Kemper? I have no way of knowing, because I graduated from high school in 2003, well into the decline of American public education. I mostly learned about dinosaurs and heroin. I also learned these things in public school. Education in the United States is not actually run by the Department of Education. It's administered by states, school districts, and increasingly, YouTube videos involving cats or twerking. The Department of Education doesn't determine curriculum, hire teachers, or monitor the quality of heroin in public schools. Outside of some minimal grants, it doesn't pay teacher salaries either. It doesn't even handle the National School Lunch Program. That's the Department of Agriculture, which I think should be replaced with Ellie Kemper. Call me. So what does it do? Mostly student loans. The Department of Education's budget is about $270 billion per year. Of that, about $160 billion goes to federal student aid. That's about half, I don't know, public schools. I did learn how to turn an apple into a bong. After its main job as a Pez dispenser for Pell Grants and student loans, the Department of Education operates as a kind of civil rights commission for public schools. It ensures that schools aren't doing racist stuff or providing inadequate services for children with disabilities. I'm actually more worried about, the overall decline of American education in general than I am about teachers being racist. I just don't think teachers are particularly racist. But let's say that's a problem. The laws are still on the books. You can still sue a school for bringing back segregation? If your public school, full of card-carrying teachers union members, is just itching to Jim Crow their math class, let me assure you, the laws are still on the books and you can totally sue them in court. I do it all the time to meet ladies. So is there a Mr., Your Honor? Now, to be fair, a small percentage of the Department of Education's budget actually goes to assisting public schools. About $14 billion is metered out to school districts for special education services, and $18 billion goes to improving school districts, provided they do whatever the feds want. I'm sure there are some great programs the Department of Education handles. But if we're assessing the efficacy of government, here's a good basic starting point. Would education be better in this country with the Department of Education as is, or if we just dismantled it and sent checks to every public school in the country? There are 50 million students enrolled in U.S. K-12 public schools. How much would each student get if we just split up the department's budget? I couldn't work out the math. So I hired far more competent Bangladeshi 12-year-olds to divide the Department of Education's budget by the number of American students. Then I asked them to do my taxes. And finally, in a heartwarming moment, I adopted them. And I am now the proud father of 2 beautiful kids. One ago I adopted out of pity. My children came up with the following figure: $5,400, I hate you, you're not my real dad, this is why you're alone, per student. So if somehow the Department of Education does wind up on the chopping block, ask yourself, if we just sent a check to every school district in America of $5,000 for each of its students, would education be better or worse than it is now? And to be clear, that's what I would do. That's not what the Trump administration is proposing. They want to abolish the Department of Education and then shoot Rosie O'Donnell, put tariffs on narwhals, give Hulk Hogan a cannon. I don't know. Alternately, we could just not spend the money because of the massive, crippling debt that will eventually ruin these children. But before everybody freaks out, it's worth asking, how vital is the Department of Education to education? Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a date with a hot judge, by which I mean I've got a hearing for contempt of court.